Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. My name is Joe and today I'm joined by Fantasy Football Scout Deputy Editor Tom Freeman to have a look at his early Game Week 1 draft for the 2024-25 season. Welcome, Tom. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Joe. Yeah, it's been a busy summer. I played the Euro Fantasy game, and then it was kind of straight into the launch right after that, wasn't it? So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a busy few weeks, but good. But how about you? You okay?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, so been doing some other stuff away from Fantasy Football Scout, and yeah, it's good to be back doing these videos as
Yeah.
well. I did my own team reveal, which is being published this morning, which is we're recording this on Friday, and also interviewed Mark Southerns as well. People
Yes,
might
saw
know
that.
him. He invented Fantasy Football Scout, and obviously talking to you now. And it's very useful for me, for my own team as well, and hopefully everyone watching and listening as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to just have a look back on your career history, those that are perhaps new to Fantasy Football Scout videos and podcasts, just explain a bit about your career in FPL and why we're interviewing you.
Yeah.
And also you're an Aston Villa fan, so we'll chat a bit about them because in these videos we like
Great.
to sort of get a fan's perspective. So I'm a Brighton fan, and I talked a bit about them in my one. Mark's a Nottingham Forest fan, so we talked a bit about them. So it's Villa for this one, and then the important bit is your team reveal. This is your first draft there. Before we move
Yeah.
on, just a plug for the members area. There's a 40% offer going on at the moment. There's other discounts during the summer, I believe. So make your tables, season ticker, comparison tool, rate my team. Lots and lots of gadgets and tools there to help you progress in your season. Lots of previous winners have used the Fantasy Football Scout members area. So take note. And also please subscribe. Press like and feel free to give us a lovely review and a 5-star rating on podcasts wherever you receive them. If you don't want to leave a lovely review and you want to leave a negative review, just step away from the keyboard. Don't bother with that. But just leave us a lovely review, very complimentary about us too. Up to you. Okay, what we're going to do is have a look at your career history. So I'll put that up on the screen now. And that shows that you've got 8 top 10k finishes, 5 of those in the top 1k, and a couple outside the top 100k. So what sort of season do you think this will be? Outside the top 100k one, or one of those, another stellar one?
Well, hopefully inside, but it feels quite exciting, doesn't it, Joe? Because obviously the changes, which we'll talk about a bit later, have really freshened it up. So I feel like it's been a while since I've gone into a season with a bit of a known. I think there's going to be an opportunity to learn with the 5 free transfers about how to use that. I mean, the mystery chip less so. We don't really know what we're getting with it, do we?
No.
But no, it should be really exciting season. I suppose I always kind of look at it and think, top 10K, another one would be absolutely great. I haven't had that. I came close last year, but didn't quite get over the line with it. But I think more so this season, I just want to kind of enjoy it. I want to enjoy the process of it. I love the kind of the build up to a game week and selecting players. So yeah, it feels like it's shaping up to be a pretty good one though, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned those changes. We can talk about them now, really. So
Yeah.
before we look at Aston Villa,
Okay.
so there are some notable changes. I've got a graphic I can put up on the screen. This is something I put up on Mark's one as well. It just highlight. It was from Hibbo, who is writes for
Yeah.
Fantasy Football Scout and is now on the Scoutcast regularly each week, so you can listen to and watch him there every week with Andy and FPL Nacho as well. So what this shows is there's been a change to the bonus system, which we think is going to dramatically favour attackers over defenders. Defenders get a -4 for every goal they concede. That includes
Yeah.
goalkeepers. And attackers get more points for winning fouls and getting shots on target. So those midfielders like Saka, Salah, Foden should benefit.
Yeah.
Haaland as well. So what Hibbo's graph here, and there's been lots of other analysis on that, including in Fantasy Football Scout, shows that Darwin Núñez, Haaland, Salah, Isaac, Palmer, they would like to really benefit from the bonus on shots on target. Meanwhile, Maddison, Jordan Ayew, and João Pedro at Brighton could benefit a lot from winning fouls. They're very good at doing that as well. So that's a change there. How do you think that's going to change your thinking? Do you think you're not going to invest so much in defence, or how does these bonus change the way you think?
I'm going to try and not get too fixated on it, because if I think a team is good and they've got a defender who's going to keep a clean sheet, and I think if they're capable of attacking returns, they're still going to get bonus. So I think that it might impact defenders if they're not keeping a clean sheet. You just mentioned that, Joe, they get a -4 BPS for that, don't they, for
Yeah.
conceding a goal. But yeah, I think it could become important, but I'm not trying to focus on it too much. I'm still going by my same kind of route of looking for defenders with attacking upside, with clean sheet prospect. But certainly the players like Foden, like Saka, I think they're really going to go benefit big time from the changes.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially somebody like Foden.
Yeah.
So
Another change this season that's slightly different is that a whole number of players that you've just mentioned there have been went all the way to the final in their respective cup competitions, whether that was in America or Europe. But also we've got the Olympics coming up, so a lot of the younger players. And I think with the Olympics teams, I think you can have one, maybe two sort of older players in there.
yeah, I think Mateta's going, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think I read that yesterday. So that's obviously a player who I don't even think they can play in game week 1. I think, is it still running then? I think it's around that time anyway.
I think it finishes very, very close. So it would be
Yeah.
if a player got to the final in of the Olympics football competition, then they're not going to start game week 1. I would be very surprised.
Yeah.
So we do have to bear that in mind, and that might affect Eze, for example. I think Eze is a player that should benefit from the bonus system. Obviously, he's a good player, but he's going to be without Elise, who's at Bayern Munich. Could be without Mateta early on because of the Olympics.
Yeah, I think the players that racked up serious minutes in those Euros and Copa America tournaments are probably a bit more in doubt than the other fringe players, maybe. But we'll get to know that. We're covering every friendly on Scout at the moment. So as we approach that kind of game week 1 deadline, we know, Joe, that week before when a team plays their final friendly, it's a very good indicator of that game week 1 team that they're going to put out.
Yeah.
So we're going to gain so much information over the next few weeks, and that's why these are called first drafts, aren't they? They're very much first drafts, the first ones we do when we go into the game, and then we add to that and we build to that over the coming weeks. So
with pre-season, something I've been plugging on any video I've been appearing on, the work that Neil and you do at Fantasy FFScout on the pre-season coverage, how many minutes they're getting, scoring goals, bandwagons to emerge. We're all searching for the new Michu, who was the star of pre-season for Swansea one year and then went on to be one of the highest scoring players that year. So we're all searching for them. So what teams are you particularly looking at in pre-season?
Well, my own team, obviously Villa, playing very close. We'll come on to them in a minute, playing really close attention to them. But I'm always looking at kind of new signings to see how they're bedded in tactically, how they're, we spoke about Palace there. So they've lost a player like Olise, but they've signed in Kamada, who Oliver Glasner has played with or used at Frankfurt. So it'll be interesting. Does he slot into that Olise role? Does he maybe go a little bit deeper in their system? So we're always looking out for things like that. I think Aït-Nouré played at wing back in the recent Wolves friendly. So it's not really one team. It's more kind of tactical things throughout all of those teams and what those managers try and which is different and how might that impact the player going forward. So not really one specific team, but just a broader look at how things are shaping up.
Yeah,
So,
I guess for me, it's definitely those with the new manager, basically.
exactly.
And there's a lot. There's Liverpool, Chelsea,
well, your team,
Brighton, Leicester. Brighton, I've spoke about my video, but they've got a manager who's very young. And,
he's 31, isn't he? I think he was.
And he's known for being quite innovative and doing sort of looks like insane things. So I'm very interested to see what he can do, because that's very fits into that Brighton model there. So of being sort of taking the team on a bit more strategy wise. And Liverpool and Chelsea are probably the biggest one, because we want to see where Palmer fits in. Want to see Dewsbury Hall could. He was with the manager at Leicester, and Liverpool as well. I think probably Liverpool is the key one, because it's Salah. Is Salah going to be used as potent goal scoring Salah, or is he going to be used? I don't know. He's getting older. He's 32, sparingly on the wing.
Yeah, and Alexander-Arnold, it applies to, doesn't it, Joe? How
Yeah.
is Arne Slot going to use? Is he going to be inverting? Is he going to be more of your out and out fullback?
Mm.
And even as well, there's I think it's the 3 7.5
Mm.
attackers from Liverpool. You've got Jota,
Yeah.
Darwin, and Gakpo, and it's who's going to be favoured out of
Mm.
those three
Yeah.
in the attack because then they become options as well,
Mm.
especially for those who aren't going with
Mm.
Salah.
Yeah.
Um, and then just going back to the changes as well, we've obviously got the 5 free transfers now,
Mm.
haven't we, Joe?
Yeah.
Which is a massive thing for strategy.
Mm.
It's the big change,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it?
I mean,
So
how's that? I mean, because how would you? So I look back on last season, and I think there was about 3 to 4 times where I got to the two free transfers, and I did
yeah,
struggle to use the third
yeah,
one.
same,
And,
yeah.
and and I could have done with that third one, but I don't think I
Yeah,
really ever got to 4 and 5 because you've got to
no,
be. I found you've got to be sort of dynamic. You've got to hit hop on those bandwagons because they're good. They're
yeah.
scoring a lot, and you're going to miss out. The way, how do you play it in terms of those sort of hits and transfers usually, and how do you think this is going to change the way you play?
Well, I think if you're doing really well, you're probably going to be more at ease with saving transfers, aren't you, Joe?
Yeah.
If you
Well,
really
yeah.
hit the ground running and you kind of you have a good start, there's going to be an opportunity to
Mm.
accumulate transfers. I think it'll be quite rare. I think, like you say, that
Mm.
you get to 5.
Mm.
It's always something that you
Yeah.
can do, isn't there? And
Yeah.
but get into that kind of sweet spot of maybe like 3 or 3,
Mm.
maybe even 4 sometimes would
Yeah.
be really useful. I don't think well, so firstly, I think that yeah, you will be able to maybe attack fixture swings a little
Mm.
bit more.
Mm.
You might be able to, getting in and out Haaland, for instance, was
Yeah.
very difficult to do with 2 free
Mm.
transfers, wasn't it? If you've got 4 or
Yeah.
3 or 4, that becomes easier to do it without a hit. So you might be able to kind of move players like him, and that applies to Salah and Palmer and Saka and players like that a bit more. But I still don't think we can go into it. Still think transfers are going to be really valuable.
Mm.
I don't think we can be too reckless with them or anything. There's still, it's still making a transfer is still a massive thing, still really important. So I don't think it's going to change the landscape too much, but I do think in terms of it could be important when we come to playing a chip, the fact that you can roll those transfers through as well
Mm.
now.
Yeah.
You could be in the situation where you can save 3 or 4 transfers, you can bench boost
Oh, you just cut out slightly there, Tom. Are you still there?
11.
Yeah.
So there's loads of possibilities with it, and
Hmm.
I don't really know at the
Yeah.
moment. We're just gonna have to play it out and see how it goes.
Yeah.
So
You just cut out a little bit for me there, just that last 5 seconds or so.
okay.
What were you saying there? I heard the word 11.
Right, yeah, basically. So, did you hear about the bench boost bit when I said
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
could you could kind of so yeah, but it just basically it's going to be interesting. We don't really know where we're going to be at with this. We're just going to have to go in
Mm.
through it. There's going
Yeah.
to be so many different strategies,
Yeah.
and we're just going to have to just kind of roll with it
Yeah.
and learn as we go, I suppose.
Yeah,
No.
definitely. I mean, I think we're going to have to, players that aren't injury prone are going to be a priority for me. I think as they should be every season, but I would like to save those transfers because the thing was with using a wild card, it's good to use a wild card, from a position of strength. So you're doing
Yeah.
well, and you're just using that to improve it and get on those fixture swings. Therefore, if you're leading up to that moment, chances are you can save two or three transfers and keep them
Yeah.
for after the wild card. But if you're using a wild card because your team's full of injuries and the very expensive player you've got is injured or suspended or something like that, then it's very unlikely you're going to be able to save those transfers because you're going to need to make those transfers.
Yeah.
Even if you want to hit that change, you might have to just use the wild card before when you plan to do it. So I find, because both of us have been playing this game for a number of years now, and I find that the changes here with those bonus points and the pricing and the bonus point system as well, but also the changes to the transfers, all of this just adds so many more layers. Everything we've discussed now for the last 5 minutes, we didn't discuss last season because it didn't exist.
No.
And this is on top of all the other nuances and strategies that we do
Yeah.
talk that
Yeah.
we spend hours each season talking about.
Yeah.
So I think that's good for the game. Definitely, it makes it more
Yeah,
interesting.
It felt like it needed it, I think, but didn't it, Joe? Because we've been playing for a long time.
Mhm.
You just get set in your ways with certain times to bench boost and use your chips. And now this is kind of just, it's got everybody thinking a little bit more. And I really like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, I'm really excited about this one.
Okay, let's have a look at a table I've got of Aston Villa
Okay.
assets. So this is the best Aston Villa players last year. I've sorted it by minutes per shot on target, which is a new metric within the bonus point system. It's just one of many, many ways that you can get points. But also their number of starts, their price I put in, and how many fouls won, another new metric as well. So these sort of new things. I've also got their first 6 fixtures. They've got West Ham and Arsenal, so not great fixtures to start with, but then it gets better. Leicester away, Everton at home, Wolves at home, Ipswich away. This is a really good run.
It's a good start
From there. Unsurprisingly, Watkins is the best for minutes per shot on target. Every 68 minutes, he's doing that, which is very, very good. Then you got Diaby, Bailey, Morgan Rogers, who we'll speak about in a sec, Matty Cash, McGinn, and we'll speak about him in a sec, especially around penalties. Ramsey, Moreno, Tielemans, and to a lesser extent. And I put Konsa in here. His minutes per shot on target is very negligible, obviously, for his position. But he's won 64 fouls, which is 23 more than Ollie Watkins. So that makes me think, oh, well, he might get some points there within the bonus point system. But overall, really, there's a lot of names to consider. And I think we're definitely going to want Aston Villa players from game week 3, and that's when I'm looking at Aston Villa, but I'm not looking for the first 2. So what's you as a Villa fan, are you just sort of biased and just get Villa in from the off, or do you look at those fixtures and think those first 2 are tricky?
Yeah, I think West Ham away. I think we can score at West Ham. I think that, they're going in with a new manager. They've got Lopetegui in there, haven't they? Arsenal at home, yeah, it's very tough. But you've got to, you look at the fixtures, and I think even if you look at beyond that Ipswich game, I think Villa's fixtures are good right up until about game week 10. So I'm kind of maybe not focusing just solely on those first 2 game weeks. I'm looking a little bit beyond that. And that's why I've got a couple of players in my draft, which you'll see.
Yeah.
Which you'll see shortly. So, we beat Arsenal at home last year. We beat them away as well. I think we rode our luck in some of that, in parts of that game, and I think it'd be very, very difficult. But the fact it's at home gives me a bit more confidence.
Yeah. So for me personally, someone like Ollie Watkins, I definitely want for that Leicester game onwards. As you said, it's you're looking right up until game week 10 time. But I'm sort of okay without him for first 2. But there's going to be some changes as well. So, let's talk about Morgan Rogers first. So he came in from Middlesbrough. He was pretty effective. I think he got about 4 attacking returns in very limited minutes for Villa towards the end of last season. He's just 2 days ago, we were recording this, scored a brace in pre-season. So immediately I'm thinking, meet you. But what, is he nailed on? Will he come on? Who's his competition, and is he worth getting in?
Yeah, so he came in, like you said, Joe, in January, and he was brought in, I think, to kind of develop slowly. But he pushed way ahead of schedule, and that was partly due to Jacob Ramsey, who had a really difficult season with injuries. He was playing in that kind of left role, and then Rodgers slotted in, and he did very well. He actually started 8 league games in a row from us I think it was game week 29, and he scored 3 goals, and he got an assist. He's a versatile player. He played on the left then, but against Walsall the other night, he was kind of more in behind the striker, so he can play that role as well. He got the couple of goals. Now, Ramsey, I tried to get a bit of an update on him earlier in the week. I think he's still doing gym work at the moment, so he's not playing. He didn't feature in the friendly at all. And it makes me think that Rodgers could start the season if he continues impressing in that left-hand side role. And Emery plays quite narrow anyway with the wide players. So I think we're recording this on the Friday after the game launch, so it's still early doors. But at the moment, he's in the kind of the frame for that slot at the moment. And I think if you can plug into Villa's attack for a £5 million midfielder, even if it's just for a few games, that could be a really nice enabler. I think he's underpriced. Sorry, Joe. I think he's underpriced. When I looked at the game, obviously went to Villa straight away. I thought he would be around 6, potentially 5.5, but to see him at 5,
Yeah.
that feels a little cheap.
Yeah, I mean, and with my own particular draft, I was initially thinking of a 3-4-3 with a 4.5 midfielder, and I didn't actually like any of the 4.5 midfielders. I felt it was a bit of a waste of space, and then Rodgers pops up with his 2 goals, and what you've just
Yeah.
talked about there about him makes me think, well, just for that point 0.5 extra, what a great player to have first on your bench. What a great player to come
Yeah.
in if you need to for injuries to save those transfers.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see in that graphic there, he won 9 fouls because of that role. He takes on players, he drifts in from the left, and he will kind of try and get in beyond strikers. I think he'll do okay in that metric. But I just think, a nice enabler. There is competition. We need to see where Ramsey is. If we sign another player who can play in that role, then obviously we're going to have to look at it again. Somebody like McGinn could move to that kind, because we've got a new left back. We've signed Ian Maatsen from Chelsea, who was at Dortmund last year. Very attacking left back. So we've got to look at that dynamic as well. But at the moment, I like Rodgers a lot.
Okay. You mentioned McGinn there. So with Louise off,
Yeah.
penalties are up for grabs. The consensus seemed to be that McGinn was second and Tielemans was also on them. Who do you think is going to be on penalties now?
I think it will be Tielemans.
Oh, okay.
But the way I see the team at the moment, Bailey will play on the right. I think in the middle, in central midfield, it will be Kamara once he's back from injury, and Onana, who is on the verge of a move from Everton.
Yes.
But obviously, Onana will be ready to play at the beginning. Kamara won't be. So you might find Ross Barkley's getting some minutes in that central midfield role to begin with. And then on the left, I think it will be Rodgers. Then it's that position in behind Watkins, which could be Tielemans, could be McGinn, potentially. So it could be that whoever's on the pitch, if it is McGinn, if it's Tielemans, they will take the penalty.
Okay.
Could Watkins? He's not great at penalties, but after the summer that he's had, could he come back and say, "Well, look, I want to take penalties. I want to." We don't know at the moment. No. If I had to guess at the moment, I think it'd be Tielemans. I think he's the best taker we've got.
Yeah.
But again, that's another thing to monitor, Joe, because if Tielemans comes in and he's playing in a number 10 role and he's fined at 5.5 million and he's on penalties, suddenly then he becomes a bit of an option for us. So there's you don't go to many teams and have this big kind of array of options, but I think there could be at Villa, certainly at the moment, because there's a lot of unknowns.
Apart from, for those that either don't want to or can't go to Ollie Watkins, even from game week 3 game week 3 to 10 when their fixtures get good. Every player we've got in this list, they're between 6.5 and 4.5. And that's 4.5 defenders. Concert at 4.5 is just immediately in my team.
Yeah.
That's just amazing value. I don't know whether it's been underpriced or they're anticipating with the bonus defenders might not do so well, but he's got no competition, has he, Concert? He's definitely going to start.
Oh no, he's him and Powell at the back are absolutely nailed on. There's uncertainty at left back. You've got Moreno and Dean still there, and Ian Maatsen's obviously going to nail down that spot eventually. But does he start the season as number 1? I'm not sure. Cash is right back at the moment, but there is rumours that we might sign a new player to play that position. But certainly Konza and Pau Torres. 100% nailed.
So many good options. Villa definitely a team to look out for. There, beyond Watkins, I think most people. I think Watkins is already like 50% owned in the game, but you could be overlooking some of these other ones.
And then just before if we do move on, Joe, just Diaby.
Yes, I was going to just ask you about him.
Sounds like he's on his way to Saudi.
Right. Okay.
Only a year after he came, he started very well. He tailed off a bit. He probably isn't in our best 11 at the moment. So if you get a big offer for him, I can understand, given the FFP situation, that why we sell him. And Bailey as well, very good at home last year, 6.5 million. It's not a lot for him, and he could become a factor too, because he was excellent.
So I would be looking personally from game week 3 onwards. I've already got Konsa in my team, I would like to add Watkins, and
Yes.
I've tentatively got Rodgers myself in my team,
Yeah.
but I would definitely want, if I didn't have Rodgers in, I would definitely want one of Bailey, possibly, as you say, really tempted me there with Tielemans. Tielemans on penalties, 5.5.
It could be good.
Get in my
Yeah.
team.
Yeah. Especially if he's playing in that kind of
Yeah.
advanced role and he's got two central midfielders behind him.
Definitely.
So, yeah,
Because
it
we've
could
seen
be
what he's
interesting.
in the Sky game, which is no more, sadly, this season.
Yeah, it's a shame.
He was pretty good in that side as well, because he has various other attributes which may help with the bonus in general, sort of your basic jobbing bonus point system going on. Let's have a look at your team. So taking all of that into account, we'll put your team up on the screen. So I'll read this out and then we'll go back to it, and we'll start with at the back with the goalkeepers and take it from there and move forward. But currently, for your game week 1 side, as I said, it's a very early draft and things will change. You've got Areola in goal, Munoz at Crystal Palace in a 3-man back line in your 3-4-3 with Alexander Arnold, Dan Burn, and the midfield, very powerful, with Salah, Saka, Foden, and Gibbs White and Nottingham Forest, who's on penalties, we think, for them. Watkins, Isak, and Dye as well.
I sneaked him at the end. Sneaked him in. So.
On the screen that I've got, you won't see this if you're watching, but the screen I had some kind of the system we used, and we had sort of a line and some measurements things that obscured his name, and I could see the blue, and I was thinking, who can this be? And
Jackson?
No. So we'll come back to him. Meanwhile, on the bench, you got Fabianski, Morgan Rogers, which is great, Mikolenko, and Harwood as well. Harwood Bellis from Southampton. So we'll start at the back. So you've got a combination of goalkeepers, Areola and Fabianski. What's the thinking behind that? And are you tempted to do 2 4.5s, or even spend a bit more and get, say, Pickford or Raya in?
I like the 4.5, 4.0 combination at the start of the season. I like to push my money a bit further forward in those early weeks. I mean, Pickford was great last year, but Everton seemed to improve in that regard in terms of clean sheets as the season progressed. So I think I will stick to a 4.5, 4.0. Areola and Fabianski obviously work really well, because if one doesn't play, the other probably will. West Ham weren't great defensively last year.
No.
But they've got a new manager going in who's going to keep the ball more, could help them in that regard. So that is certainly a position which is far from being nailed, though. There's Flecken. Let's see what happens at Chelsea as well. But for now, the West Ham double is in there.
Yeah, there's that's something that I may look up, because it simply saves 0.5. So I currently, and many other people might have 2 4.5s.
Yeah.
This way, you still get the guarantee of a goalkeeper, so you don't have to make a transfer there. Meanwhile, you save 0.5 as well. You could do some kind of rotation, and I don't like full-on rotation, but you just want a good backup for those tricky fixtures, I think, sometimes. And there's one I'm looking at the moment, is Henderson at Crystal Palace, and pairing him with Sarr at Wolves, who I was surprised to see coming at 4.5.
Yeah,
because
that's interesting.
When Palace have tricky fixtures early on, Wolves don't, but Wolves have overall pretty poor fixtures early on. But then from game week 9, I think it is, Wolves' fixtures become, legendary. They have one of the best fixture runs, I think.
The start is horrific, isn't it? So it kind of get that out of the way, and then it's going to be brilliant.
Yeah. And then they've got Man City in game week 8, but then from game week 9 they've got Brighton, Crystal Palace, Southampton, and this run continues. And I looked, there's a sea of blue on the season ticker. So this is from sort of October the 20-something, right up until Boxing Day. Yeah. So then Sarr just becomes my default goalkeeper.
Yeah, I had actually missed that because he was 5 last year. He was priced out of it, but I had missed it. And then I was looking at keepers last night and I saw, and that immediately kind of piqued my interest. I
Yeah,
thought 4.5, not at the beginning, maybe,
no,
unless, but if you've got another keeper that can
yeah,
play, then brilliant.
yeah,
I couldn't bring him in with a 4.5 and a
no,
4.0, but he could be interesting. And 8 Nore as well. If he's playing that wing back role, you could
yeah.
even double up from game week 9 on those
Yeah,
guys. So.
it's worth noting that Crystal Palace, if you're pairing him with Henderson, Crystal Palace have Chelsea in game week 3. Luckily, Sarr has Nottingham Forest in game week 3. So very
Yeah.
playable there. But obviously around that, you always have very tough fixtures. There was
Yes.
another one I was talking in Mark's video about more for defence, and this is something that you've done here, so I suspect you've got this in mind as well. If you wanted to spend a bit more, Pickford and the Crystal Palace goalkeeper are a very good rotation. So Everton and Crystal Palace, very good rotation. Good time to come on to your defence. You've got Munoz there and Mikolenko. Mark was telling me that their rotation is excellent, and that's why he's done that. He's in fact got, I think, Anderson, I think, but you can have Mark Gay here.
Yeah.
So have you got Munoz and Mikolenko partly for that rotation, or is that just happenstance?
I was aware of it, but no, I haven't. But I think that is more applicable to somebody like Mark's team. I don't know if yours has, Joe. You obviously had Joachim Anderson for quite a long time last year and did
Yeah,
very well with them.
yeah,
So I think if you've got the 4.5s, absolutely, that makes sense. With somebody like Munoz, I think I play him every week because you've
yeah,
got that. You're playing 5 million for a player. You've got that wing back threat that even in a tougher game he could
yeah.
still do well. So not so much for me. My rotation, I would be pretty much be playing Munoz and Alexander Arnold every single week,
Yeah.
and then I'd be playing one of Byrne, Mikolenko, or Harwood Bellis.
Okay.
Now, I did an article for Scout the other day, which you can have a look at, which goes through the rotation of those. So you're picking out one each week and who they play, and it looks okay. I do wonder if I can improve upon it slightly, but for now, that's the three-way rotation in place because Mikolenko at 4.5 getting into that Sean Dyche defence is good. Dan Byrne, I don't think he's 100% nailed
No.
because they've obviously signed Kelly. There's other options that they can play at left back and Livramento and things like that. But I think he's an Eddie Howe favourite, and I think he probably will start the season.
Yeah, yeah, well, I think so too. But also he, so I was just looking at the fixtures. So you can pretty much play Burn for the first 5. There's Tottenham in there, but Newcastle can do well against Tottenham. But game week 6, Newcastle face Man City, so you probably don't want Burn then. However, luckily for you, you could play Munoz, who has Everton away,
Everton,
or you could play your Southampton defender, who has Bournemouth away. So you can do that there.
yeah,
Same with
or
Newcastle.
Mikolenko if I wanted to play the home player against
Yeah,
Palace. So
and
there's a few options. I wonder if I could improve this rotation, but it is okay. It's all blue when you put it on the ticker anyway.
yeah,
So,
definitely. I was just looking for Everton. So, oh well, this is great. So in Newcastle face Chelsea in game week 9. Everton have Fulham at home. Newcastle have Arsenal at home in game week 10. Luckily, Everton have Southampton away.
see, I only looked up until game week 6, so the fact you're reading that is music to my ears, Joe.
Yeah,
So,
so this is a really good combination, and it makes me think I might get Mikolenko in because I do have.
yeah, I think
Burn
it's
in
good
my
value.
team.
Everybody else has gone up in that back line, haven't they? Pickford's 5, Tarkowski's 5, Branthwaite's 5. So to get Mikolenko 4.5, well, has a little bit of attacking threat as well. I think that's good.
Yeah, I do like that Everton at Newcastle one because if I'm going for a Crystal Palace and Wolves combination in goal, but I do like that as well. It remains to be seen. Obviously, there's things that change. Kilman's left for Wolves, so there could be some changes there
Yes.
as well. So they may not be as good defensively. Maybe that's why Sarr been put down a bit. I mean, he didn't. I noticed with Sarr as well. He. The previous 2 seasons, not last season, previous 2, he was average. His points were, I think, 148, 146. Last season was 107, so it's a significant dip. So I look at that and don't think he's dipping. I look at that and think pretty much he that could be an anomaly. He's a pretty much 140 plus points goalie.
They're a bit more settled now. They've had a season under Gary O'Neill. I do think they need to recruit at the back. Like you said, they've lost Kilman,
Yeah.
haven't they? They probably need to strengthen there a bit. But yeah, I think Sarr could become a factor at some point.
Okay, so that's some of those cheap defenders there. I've also gone for cheap defenders there. You haven't got Haaland, and we'll come to that in a sec. But not having Haaland helps that midfield, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
But it also means you can get Alexander-Arnold in for 7 million.
Yeah.
Now, with the new bonus, and the fact that they do have so many attacking players, Salah, Gakpo, Darwin, Núñez, etc., I wonder if Alexander-Arnold has been priced I don't think he's been underpriced, put it that way. But what's your feeling about Alexander-Arnold? Is he a bit of a sort of luxury to have?
Something has been drawing me to him even since when I saw that he was 7. He's coming off the back of a pretty poor season in terms of his overall points. But if you look at every year, you look at the metrics, and Alexander, if you look at minutes per shot, minutes per key pass, he's top for them all at defenders. That is always going to be there. Let's see how Slot uses him in pre-season. But if he's coming into those central areas again, I just think he's going to be a really important player in that system. The fixtures for Liverpool are brilliant. Yes, the BPS, we need to factor that in. But if we think Liverpool are going to keep clean sheets and we think Alexander-Arnold's going to get attacking returns, then I still think he's going to be amongst the bonus, because I think because from looking at the key pass, Trippier, we look at the volume of chances created he does, and Alexander-Arnold can be at that level, Joe. So he's going to do really well for that in each game, and I think that he's a player I kind of immediately thought, yeah, quite like that. It's 7 million. It's 1 million cheaper than last year. I can fit him in this system because I haven't gone for Haaland. So you need other big players which can. Haaland's going to score a lot of goals still, so you need other players who are going to kind of be bringing in those hauls. And I like Alexander-Arnold for the start of this season.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously Haaland there. In your midfield, you've got Salah as your captain away to Ipswich. Obviously, Isak is in consideration. He's your vice captain at home to Southampton, so you've got 2 good choices there. Without Haaland, you're probably missing game week 2's best captain. You would imagine at home to Ipswich. We know what Haaland can do against weaker teams, promoted sides at home. So do you feel that having Foden in there is enough?
Probably not. No.
And who would you captain in game week 2?
Foden, I think it would have to. I think you've got to. That's got to be the fixture, hasn't it, Joe? Ipswich at home. I mean, Ipswich were much better away from home. They actually kept more clean sheets away from home, and they were a bit more cautious away from home. But you're gonna be looking at City, and I've got this no Haaland draft at the moment. It's very easy for me to sit here with a no Haaland draft at the moment. As that game week 1 starts approaching, I will build a Haaland draft as well, and I will look at it. But I do like the strength of this. No Haaland does. I mean, that is a strong midfield there. There's options. There's options throughout that team. I think at the moment, it'll be one of Salah or Haaland. I can't see myself at the moment going in with both at the moment. I think it's probably going to be one or the other. But I think game week 1, I want Salah at Ipswich. If you look at the way that Ipswich, we've just done a piece with FPL Royser on the site, a big Ipswich fan, great contributor, gave us some amazing insight. And if you look at the way that Ipswich play, Leif Davis, their left back, he is so advanced. And I'm just thinking, a home match, they're gung-ho at home. Leif Davis bombing up that wing. You've got Salah on that right in that space where he's my captain game week 1, Salah, 100%. Okay. And because I can't see myself with both of those players, that's where I'm at the moment. Okay. But it won't be a comfortable viewing against Ipswich if I go in without Haaland. Well, and I would just have to pray that Foden can match him, which he could. Let's be fair, that could happen. Foden is a very good option still, but it is scary because he could easily go and score 3 or 4 goals there, couldn't he, Haaland?
Yeah, I think if I was absolutely 100% Foden was going to start, and the reason I say that is because he went to the final in the Euros. Yeah. And I have no doubt about Saka. Saka could have no legs and he would still get on.
He's playing, isn't it?
Arteta will always play him. Same with Gordon at Newcastle. Will always be played. Foden, Pep is a bit more about looking at fitness at that time. It's looking at
Yeah.
making sure they're 100%. And if they're not, we've seen it before. You get a player get an injury, like Haaland last
Yeah.
season, and I held him for ages, thinking, oh, he's going to be back next week. No, next week. So he's not actually unleashed until he's at that full fitness. So he might look at Foden and think, the minutes he played there, going to give him a break. He's going to come back to training late. First couple of game weeks, he's not going to play. Game week 3, maybe. Game week 2, he could play. So that's what I mean. It's just a bit up in the air, and I think we'll know more. So I think the answer to your if Foden's not in the starting lineup for the community
The final
Shield,
friend.
one of the final friendlies,
Yeah.
then that probably would say to you Foden possibly is not the guy you're going to captain.
Yeah, absolutely. And it might be that we look at somebody like De Bruyne. You know,
Yeah.
obviously he was at the Euros as well,
Yeah.
but they left quite a bit earlier. He'll have more recovery time. That would be a really easy straight swap. I don't know about you, Joe. The only players I'd feel comfortable about captaining at City are probably Haaland, Foden, and De Bruyne. They're the only three.
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel comfortable looking anywhere else in that attack.
No.
So again, let's see where we're at with that.
Well, I feel more confident this season based on last season not to captain Haaland and not even to own him sometimes. And those extra transfers help to get him in and out. And that's certainly what I plan to do with Haaland. Have the first 2, shift him off, get him back for game week 6 or 7 or so.
Yeah,
when he's better, when the better fixtures are better. But I would feel more confident captaining Foden and Saka, who is in your team, and obviously Palmer as well. There was a captain last season. Isak as well. So I'm more keen. I'm certainly keen to use the captain elsewhere. So back to your midfield. So we spoke about Salah, reason why he's in there at the moment, and Foden as well. So slightly contingent on, pre-season and what you do with Haaland as well, or De Bruyne could be an alternative. Saka as well. So we think, he'll play. Wolves at home. It looks like a really good fixture. And game week 2 is Chelsea. Game week 2 Villa. For Arsenal. Sorry about that. Is Aston Villa. So a bit tougher.
Yeah.
And then Brighton at home, so it's very good. But then it gets tougher again with Tottenham and Man City afterwards. So it's that game week 1 and 3 looks very good for Saka, and I would definitely try and get him for game week 3, I think.
Yeah, the fixtures are the away fixtures are tough, aren't they, Joe?
Yeah.
But the problem is there's some really nice home fixtures in and around that. Wolves is great. Brighton's pretty great as well. Leicester in game week 6 great. I get we get more transfers, but you still got to accumulate those transfers. And if this season is anything like past seasons for me, you're dealing with things in game week 2 and 3. So playing the hokey cokey and moving Saka in and out probably isn't going to be an option for me at this stage of the season. So that's why, he took most penalties. He seemed to get those penalties. Odegaard had a couple early in the season, didn't he? But it did seem to be more Saka towards the end. So he's obviously gone to the Euros. He's had a really good Euros tournament as well. So I like him being on my team. Going back to the BPS, fouls won, shots on target. All benefits him, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Saka's a player not in my current draft, and I would like to get him in, but that would mean sacrificing one of Salah or Haaland. I cannot see how you can have Salah and Haaland and a Foden, a Saka, a Palmer. I don't think that's possible.
Very difficult.
It's doable if you get an absolutely appalling other team, but the rest of the team. But it's one of those would have to go. I mean,
sorry, Joe. That's the good thing about this season, right? Because we're not going to have a team. We're not going to have everybody like we could last year, couldn't we? Because Palmer enabled that, didn't he?
Yeah.
So you could go in and you could have all the big hitters that you wanted. But with this season, certainly at the start, you're not going to feel. If you don't go with Saka, you're not going to be completely comfortable with that. I'm certainly not comfortable not having Haaland. But that's the interesting thing about it.
That's the great thing about all these team reveal videos. They're all going to be different. Yours is different to ours. both those
Yeah.
different to mine, and it goes on. They're all going to be different. I look at this team and think, oh my God, I don't have Saka and Foden. Oh my God, oh my God. You may or may not look at my team and think, oh my
No, I
God,
do.
I don't have Anthony Gordon. I don't have Haaland. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
absolutely.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
on.
No, you're right. Yeah, and that can only be a good thing for the
Yeah.
game. So,
Final midfielder, Gibbs White here. When I was doing the video with Mark, Nottingham Forest fan, he has tempted me with Hudson-Odoi, who is a million
yeah,
cheaper, and he
he
feels
is.
is going to
Yeah.
be better than Gibbs White in terms of
Okay.
sheer shot volume, shots on
That's
target.
interesting.
And he feels
Yeah.
he's going to be more attacking. He, as a fan, he noticed towards the end of last season, Hudson-Odoi was much better. He's already
Yeah.
good in pre-season. He feels that he's sort of a very, very underpriced player. That's not to
Yes.
discount Gibbs White, who's on penalties.
Well, I guess that's what you pay the extra million for, isn't it,
Yeah.
Joe? You get the penalties, you get the set pieces. Did very well under Nuno last year, Gibbs White. I think he got 12 attacking returns in 20 games. But again, a bit like Rodgers at Villa, for Mark and Forest fans, they probably saw Hudson-Odoi and thought 5.5
Yeah.
Hudson-Odoi. If he's starting on that left wing, is he point 0.5 or a million
Yeah.
underpriced potentially?
Yeah.
And that's why these videos are good, because you get in fan insight,
Yeah.
which is, so you get those when you get a fan who's like, oh, okay, you immediately pay. You'll probably do it when I watch yours and
Yeah.
the Brighton video. João Pedro,
He's
exactly.
in my team.
Yeah, 5.5.
Lewis
You're
Dunk,
like,
4.5
ooh,
in my team. Yeah.
yeah, he's gone down 0.5, hasn't he? So now he becomes an option. Even the left back Barker, if Estupiñán's out, I don't know how nailed it. We don't know, but there's little things like this, and that's why it's good watching all these videos, because if you get a fan reaction and they're a bit like, that's good, and I immediately take note of that. So
you have go to your front line there. Watkins is in, as I said. The first two fixtures okay, but it's from game week 3 till sort of 10. The amazing fixtures. Is he sort of not just as a Villa fan, but because of that fixture one coming up? It's a transfer you don't have to make. Is he just pretty? Not a lock, but is he pretty certain to start you?
Yeah, I just think you look at what he's done since Emery came in, and our whole team is built around creating chances for Watkins. He stays so central. He's just got that nailed. His record is unbelievable since Emery came in, and I thought he was a touch underpriced at 9 million. I don't know about you, Joe, but I thought 9.5, maybe even 10. I thought he could be.
I thought I thought that.
He hasn't got penalties, so I get that why he's been priced at 9, but I still think at 9. 90-minute man. When the Champions League comes, it's going to be something different for Villa. But I just don't see why Watkins won't be starting every single match for us, getting good minutes. And I think he's just going to have another really, really strong season. 15 goals minimum. He'll do well.
Yeah, I mean his sort of mantra under Emery has been find me to all these other players.
Yeah.
And did you see that in the Euros as well? He came on as a sub,
Bellingham,
and he immediately said to Bellingham, "Find me."
He's always looking for those runs. Yeah. And you look at if you look at Villa's team as well, even Tielemans, if he's playing as a number 10, they're not goal scorers really. They're more creators. McGinn in that role, he's more of a creator. And so you've got Bailey, who I think is more of a creator. All of that team is geared towards Watkins scoring goals.
Yeah.
And I think him and Isak, at the prices that they're at, feel like a bit of no-brainers for me at the moment.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, no, Isak as well. There, he's my captain, your vice captain. His home game against Southampton. Yeah, it's between him and Salah really for that fixture.
Yes.
I just feel with Ipswich, even though they may not be as good defensively, I just think it's a home game. I always just think promoted sides, the first home game, there's a lift there. We saw it with Brentford against Arsenal. Remember that Friday night game?
The Friday night, I do. Yeah.
And
the first ever match I covered for Scout, I think. That was.
And they
fun enough,
very memorable for many reasons. Then, but Brentford, surprisingly won that. I'm not saying Ipswich will beat Liverpool. They could though, but I just think there'll be a lift. But whereas I think with St James's Park, first home game of the season, the way their fans are, Southampton are going to rack up after being used to playing, I don't know, Barnsley or whatever in the Championship. So I just feel I
think it's totally valid. And I think for the people not going Salah, Isak is the obvious pick, isn't he? And he could do really well if he gets a brace in that game and takes home 3 bonus. I don't think anybody's surprised. So very good pick.
I'm going to round off with Ndai. So
should we just finish? Should we just finish here, Joe?
Ndai, I'm so surprised by this. I didn't even know he was at Everton, and I have no idea what his price is. What's his price?
Who is he?
Who is he? Why is he there?
Well, originally it was João Pedro, and who is obviously
on penalties.
looks like a very good pick.
Yeah.
And then a year ago, Undai, he was playing for Sheffield United in the Championship, and he came up and he had a really good season. He scored a lot of goals, got a lot of assists for them. And I can remember doing a lot of preview pieces with Sheffield United fans leading up to the season, and they were like, he's the best ever player to play for Sheffield United. The best ever player. Immediately, I was kind of like, right, okay, so let's take him a little bit more seriously.
I'm really thinking that is a low bar.
yeah. Well, then I started to think of who has actually played for Sheffield United and before. Who are like their big players? You know, Brian Deane and all those kind of guys. And yeah. But immediately I kind of looked at it, so I started to look into him, and he went away. He joined Marseille, and he had a bit of an underwhelming year. He only scored 3 goals for them, but he was used all along the front. They've since changed their manager. It wasn't a good season. He's come into Everton. I think he's probably going to play as a number 10 in behind a striker. I think he could do. I think he's exactly what Everton need, and I think he could be really effective there. There's a few unknowns at the moment. We don't know is it going to be Calvert-Lewin leading the line? If it is, I think they could link up well with Undai playing off a more of a kind of a target man, physical presence. I like Everton's fixtures at the beginning of the season. I think they're pretty good. They go to Leicester in the first 5 weeks. They've got Brighton and Bournemouth at home as well, I think. And so I put him in there, and I thought, could he offer a bit of value at 5.5? Now, by no means is this position locked. João Pedro is very tempting. Is João Pedro completely nailed for the start of the season, Joe?
Yes and no.
Okay.
We've got a lot.
We don't know.
João Pedro can play pretty much anywhere in the front 4 positions. Yeah. And in each of those 4 positions, I think it's FPL Instinctive did a really good look at the depth we have now, if everyone is fit. But even with Matoma, sort of, I think we'll find out more about Matoma's fitness.
I think he's
because there's Brighton having a tour of Japan kicking off very soon. But Solly March is still sort of coming back. But we've got a whole bunch of other wingers that have come in. Meanwhile, you've got Ferguson and Welbeck as competition up front. And then Enciso can play number 10 as well. So basically, is he nailed? I think he's nailed to play within a game. Will he start and then come off at half time? Will he make more than 60 minutes? Will he do the full 90 minutes? Every time he plays, he looks good, and he looks like one of Brighton's best players. And he's amazing at penalties. So, I mean, for me, it's probably partly a bias as a Brighton fan, but I just think he's good. I've sort of got him in with game weeks 4 and 5 in mind as well. So I don't mind even benching Pedro, but it's game weeks 4 and 5. He's got Ipswich and Nottingham Forest at home. I feel that Manchester United at home, he could score in that as well. It's the Arsenal away in game week 3, but Everton away, I think he could score in that. But I mean, I don't love the first 3, but it's that game weeks 4 and 5. Everton have a longer, better run, put it that way.
Yeah, I think that I could probably go for somebody like João Pedro because I've got Rodgers in there who could come in, and this can easily turn into a 3-5-2. So game week 2 could be a bit of a problem with that. Although I'd probably just play João Pedro. Actually, it probably isn't a problem. João Pedro at home to Man United, if we think he's going to start, is a good pick. Going on what we saw last year. So I could probably do that. But I do like going for think of it maybe more of a price point at the moment. I like a 5.5 midfielder.
He's 5.5, is he?
Yeah, he's a 5.5 forward.
No, he's interesting. I mean, that's the good thing about speaking to you on these videos, because you've traditionally always had the sort of 4th midfielder slot, which would be a risk, a differential, might pay off, based on your research. In this case, it's the 3rd striker rather. I mean, there's none of your midfielder
no, they're pretty reliable. Well-owned picks.
I mean, I guess Rodgers possibly we don't know fully, but it seems quite the rest of the 4, obviously. But it's Ndai is the sort of differential punt here. But it's a player I hadn't thought about. People watching this and listening, and I can already tell people are going to people always home in on the more unusual player first. And
Yeah, of course they do.
the comments
Yeah.
in YouTube will be going, Undai, what's this man smoking?
That's fine.
But
I'm
the thing
used
is,
to
now
that with
you've
my
actually now
teams. So.
convinced me possibly to get.
No, I mean, I think, yeah, let's see how it looks in pre-season.
Yeah,
But if he's a nailed-on player in that
yeah,
Everton attack, the good thing is Everton don't score many goals. So if he's going to become, I'm not saying he's going to become a talisman, but if he's there and he's going
yeah,
to get a goal and a 1-0 win, there's obviously a potential for bonus. Probably playing, he's going to win a lot of fouls in that number 10
yeah.
role as well. Because of the way teams defend against Everton.
Hmm.
So yeah, that could be João Pedro, it could be Undai,
Okay.
but yeah, I don't think we should write off Undai. I
No.
think that he could be a player that could be I mean, they're enablers, aren't they, Joe? These
Yeah,
players,
yeah, yeah.
that's what they're there for.
Yeah,
So
and yeah, I think so. I mean, I've got Pedro, and other people might have, say, Fulham striker, and so
Muniz,
on. But
yeah.
I think the third striker spot is the one we can have a little bit of fun with. The differential
Yeah.
we can go with. Yeah,
If João Pedro, I don't know what his ownership's like, but if he's owned by 20%, he's not going to kill me if he gets a brace in game week 1 and I have to switch. But that might be something that I'm comfortable with doing in that slot.
Yeah.
I'm going for something a little bit different.
yeah. I must admit, when I saw the name, and now you've said it's the Sheffield United player who, yes, I do remember a lot of Sheffield United fans saying
Yeah, they
he
were
was
raving
incredible.
about him. Yeah.
And so yeah, now you.
Can Sean Dyche get a tune out of him? Because they don't score many goals, Everton.
No.
So he's going to have a quite a high goal involvement figure for him to become effective.
Well,
But yeah, let's see. No.
well, Tom, thanks for joining me. When I started doing this and introduced you 55 minutes ago, I never thought I would end this thinking, do you know what? I might get Everton's number 10 in. But
Don't listen to me just yet. Go and watch pre-season.
Here we are.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely convinced. Thanks a lot for joining me. Just a final reminder: do press that like button, do subscribe, do leave a favourable review. If you're not going to leave a favourable review, just don't even bother. Just step away. Also, do check out those discounts, the members area. Absolutely invaluable stuff. The season ticker as well. I've been mentioning it all through this, and the table I showed for Aston Villa. That's from the members area as well. I constructed that myself, and you can do exactly the same. You can, whatever team you want to target or your own team, you can find out who the best players are by all those underlying metrics. And and you've got Statsbomb behind the scenes. Working away with their that's that.
brilliant.
I know the expected stats nuts are very pleased by that.
Yeah, it's meant to be the most accurate in the market. So we're going to add that in. And also what we've got access to something called the Statsbomb IQ in the editorial team have anyway. And so we can bring like the visualizations in there, and the radars are just excellent.
Wow.
So we can kind of add another element to our scout notes and our preview coverage. So everything will look a lot fancier, a lot smarter on Scout, I think, going forward with the addition of Statsbomb data and the visuals. So
excellent stuff. Well, Tom, thanks for joining me. We'll be back during the season with our regular videos, it's been great to see the team, especially in Dai. Good luck with your game week 1 side, and good luck with the rest of the season. Good luck with all the pre-season coverage. Tom, take care. See you soon.
cheers, Joe. Bye.